Let's look ahead and take a focus for 2026 on the 10 big contract stories heading into next year. And it's no surprise, Zack Butters is at the top of that list, Kel.
Yeah, well, we've got the Harley Reid mention jar. I'm going to bring a box of butter next year. I'm going to slice off a bit of butter every time.
I can't believe we're talking about Butters.
I know. Well, I can't believe we're not talking about Butters at any point. Look, Zack Butters' future is so obviously going to be the number one trade and free agency discussion all next year because he's a top 5 player in the AFL. Who's very clearly considering going home. So he's had a deal in front of him since early last year that was up to an 8-year extension worth around $14 million. It would have been footy's biggest ever contract had he signed it, but he didn't want to at that point. The Western Bulldogs and Geelong are the strong leading contenders for him. Hawthorn, Essendon, Carlton, Collingwood will all try for Butters, but I think it'll be one of the two. And he will play his heart out next year. I expect him to have a career best season. I think he'll be like Paddy Dangerfield. If he does go, I think he'll do it in the right way and playing to the right sort of level all the way through.
If he does go, we know that Port Adelaide's in a position to match any free agency bid that comes for him. It's just going to be draft picks that Port Adelaide's going to want, isn't it? Given the Dougie Cochrane, Zemmers Pilot, Tavita Roden, Louis Salopek situation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's you have to set yourself up that way, and they'll have that front in mind, and they'll have their own pick for next year as well.
What about Zach Merritt? He's got a contract till 2027, but clearly this isn't going to go away next year.
No way. I mean, Zack Merritt's said all the right things since getting back to the Bombers, and he's invested and training really well, but there's little doubt his absolute desire and desperation in the trade period to get to Hawthorn is going to linger throughout all of this year, starting at round 1 against the Hawks and going all the way through. Merritt would only have 1 year to go, of course, on his contract at the end of 2026. So, and the Hawks didn't bring anyone else in the trade period. No. So they'll be busy themselves. But who the Hawks target next year will be a big storyline, and Merritt will being a part of that will be significant throughout all of next year, which gets us to our next one.
They got assets as well, Hawthorn during the trade period, as you mentioned before, during the draft, sorry.
Absolutely. So chasing Humphrey is one of the big stories as well that's going to be played out in 2026. Bailey Humphrey is already on the trade targets board at Dingley, amongst other clubs. So the Hawks met with him last trade period, as we know, as did Melbourne and Collingwood. All three will be hunting him hard. I could easily see St Kilda getting involved in that chase as well at some point. He'll have 2 years left on his deal at the end of 26, rather than 3 at the end of 25. If he was to look at a move home again to Victoria, the Suns would have been well prepared for it for 12 months, rather than this case this year where it sort of popped up. They already had stuff happening. So you can easily see at his trajectory, clubs offering him 6-8 year deals at $1.2, $1.4 million the way he's going. You can already see that. So it's not going to be a money decision, but he's got the pull to come home, and we'll see how that plays out this year.
Free agency list has 4 premium names at the top of it. We mentioned Zack Butters before, but Sam Walsh, Zach Bailey and Ben King are all A-graders that are going to hit the free agency market next year. Beyond that, the depth maybe isn't as strong as it was this year. Normally you have those sort of 8 or 9 really high-quality free agents, but those 4 are going to be big talking points next year.
Yeah, Walsh and Bailey for me. I mean, these are that we've spoken about Butters. These are the two. Walsh has been in no hurry to get to his contract decision, and he'll have some extreme offers too. I mean, the Cats are already pursuing him actively, and we know that that's been the case for some time. St Kilda will be in that market as well. Look, I hope he has a Brownlow year next year and gets a good run at it, because he's a star, and the interest in him will reflect that as a midfielder as well. The queue for Bailey is not just out the door of the Gabba. I think he gets to New South Wales. He's getting to the border. There's that many clubs.
Past Gold Coast.
That many clubs interested in Zack Bailey, and he's wanted to hold off and get to the pre-season before getting into any sort of discussions. But Adelaide and Port Adelaide will use the SA ties that he's got. Victorian clubs think he's gettable as well if he has a look around. So yeah, he's got a massive payday coming his way.
As does Josh Weddle, because you've already reported the story that Essendon's offered the 7-year, $10 million deal for him. His manager, Dylan Hodge, was on our show last week and said that he won't start talks before getting back into pre-season in 2026, but clearly he's going to have massive things to consider next year.
Yeah, well, it's a huge deal, isn't it? I still don't expect him to leave.
No.
But, I mean, the reality is that you don't see many $10 million offers from opposition clubs very often for players, do you? So he has a big decision to make. Regardless, it's going to be a payday increase for him, whichever club he's at in 2027. But yeah, look, who else do the Bombers get aggressive on as well if this one doesn't go their way?
Well, Zach Bailey is one that they might get aggressive on, or they have got aggressive on. He could be one, I reckon, that might pop next year, but is he going to do enough to get to the $2 million club, Kel?
I'm not sure who joins the $2 million club next year. I mean, looking through the out of contracts, but in saying that, would we have said Nazai Wangaleen-Miller would have been the first $2 million player this time last year?
I reckon this time last year we said he could be a $1 million player, and we were going, that's an extraordinary rise if he gets to that point. So.
Yeah, he's doubled it. Zack Butters will be very close, if
Yep.
not at that level, I think, wherever he plays next year. Nick Dacos has 3 years left on his deal after 2026, but does he get bumped up to that level as well? We often see clubs rearrange their deals. So there's not, I mean, and Sam Darcy as well potentially could be that guy, but he still has another couple of years to go.
Do you know who's out of contract next year that I reckon could potentially tip $1 million, not 2,
Who?
$1 million? Joel Frazier.
Oh, yep.
It's another one that I'm watching with interest going into 2026. Yep. There's a lot going on at Gold Coast. We've mentioned how much they've done over the last couple of years, but there's going to be the forward squeeze next year with Jed Walter out of contract, Ben King hitting free agency.
Yeah, I mean, Jed Walter's not signed beyond 2026 yet. So, and the Suns have obviously added another key forward to their mix with Jamara coming into the club. Clubs are absolutely keeping tabs on Walter. I mean, Carlton would have sent Charlie Curnow to the Suns if it meant getting Walter, but he didn't want that move, as in Jed. He didn't chase that, but hasn't chased the contract extension either yet. So he's one of the 3 top 10 picks from the 2023 draft who've not signed on yet. Dersmer and Sanders being amongst them as well. And then there's Darcy Wilson as well from that draft as another first rounder who hasn't re-signed beyond those first 2 years, and I think clubs will throw some cash at him and come knocking for him too. I expect Essendon to have a big tilt at Jed Walter, but they won't be alone. West Coast will have a crack as well. Collingwood's been planting the seeds for some time. Gold Coast wants to keep him. He's a key forward who was pushed out of the senior team at the end of the season, so clearly the knocks on the door of his management and directly to him will be significant. So that's one. And then there's Ben King as well. Yeah. How much does his decision, Jed Walters, rest on what Ben King does? Yeah. Or vice versa, in terms of what the Gold Coast are willing to pay for their key forward group?
It's going to be an interesting first 6 weeks at the Suns as well. If Jamara cracks that team, Ethan Reid, Ben King, they went with Jai Farah late in the season as that sort of third tall. So it's going to be an interesting first 6 weeks to see what the mix looks like in that attack as well. You mentioned Riley Sanders there that hasn't signed on at the Western Bulldogs. He's clearly going to be one of Tassie's top targets. Adelaide had also shown interest last year, but it's going to be a big year for Tasmania in 2026.
Well, this is the starting point, isn't it? We hope that by then the stadium is all ticked off, but this is the go time, isn't it, really? Because we know their rules. We know what the money they've got to use. We've got their list management team in place now as well. You know, do they have a coach in waiting by now? Is there a handshake with Nathan Buckley potentially at the end of his Geelong stint too? Next year they'll begin meeting AFL players though. They've begun meeting AFL agents so far. It'll be about AFL players next year. So they'll be launching into their 17-year-old access as well next season ahead of the draft. So locking those guys in, another big year for the Devils to come, as it will be, Riley, for the Magpies. So I've got my eyes firmly on what the Magpies are doing next year. You know, a quiet Magpie off-season leads to a bigger off-season the following year, as they say.
Yeah, as they all say. They've been saying it. You hear people talking about that at the dinner tables, don't they?
Like, you know, they throw at the stumps.
Too soon.
Collingwood was short of cash this year. So they're up to their eyeballs in the Matt Rowell chase. I'd love to see how they were going to do that if he re-signed, or if he had interest in going there. And he did at some point. But in the end, he chose to stay. They chose to re-sign a stack of their senior guys, Pendlebury, Howe, Sidebottom. This is their last year of their careers, you'd imagine. So where does the Pies pay go in 2026? Who do they chase really hard? We might have mentioned a couple of them already, but I think they'll be on the attack again after a quiet off-season in 2025.
Yes. The superstar shift, Kel.
Yeah, last one here. I just think there's a storyline that's going to be bubbling throughout this year that is going to be around who takes the Merritt, Curnow, Petrarca, Simkin, Oscar Allen approach of just saying I'm out in different ways. So all of those had mitigating circumstances, but nobody's untouchable anymore. So the watch is on which players can have their heads turned. Hence why clubs went direct to Nick Dacos during the trade period just to sense his appetite for it. Or which clubs to try and hunt around for different players. I think we're just seeing a bold and emboldened new phase of list management by clubs, and how brazen do they become? It's not even just for the absolute A-graders yet either. That goes for every level. Does a club offer Sam Marshall a 6-year deal and try and get him out of Brisbane? Yeah. Does a club like Adelaide go really hard for Tom Powell as a player who's sort of just about to hit that peak as a midfield option? So yeah, I think those are a couple of guys, not specifically to them, but at different stages of their career. I think we're going to see some bold moves this year, and I think it's for us just sit back and get out the popcorn.
And do we see potentially more caution though? knowing that the Zach Merritt trade didn't go through.
From players?
Yeah, from a player perspective.
But yeah.
That's what I wonder as well. If there was the 4 deals didn't get done on deadline day, whether or not we see more caution there, even as clubs get more aggressive, if players potentially get more cautious around that.